When providing electrical power to a detached garage, the decision of whether to use a subpanel or a junction box is important. Both options have advantages and disadvantages. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, requires a subpanel or a junction box to serve as a connection point for multiple circuits in a detached garage. It is important to note that while the NEC doesn't explicitly mandate a subpanel when only 2 circuits are involved, local codes might impose such a requirement. A subpanel offers several advantages. Firstly, it acts as a dedicated power source specifically for the detached garage. Secondly, it simplifies future additions of circuits, providing scalability. Thirdly, in some jurisdictions, installing a subpanel ensures compliance with local code requirements. However, subpanels also have disadvantages. Firstly, they tend to be more expensive compared to junction boxes. Secondly, they require more physical space within the garage. On the other hand, a junction box also has its own set of advantages. Firstly, it is a more cost-effective solution. Secondly, it occupies less space. The disadvantages are firstly, it's not as easily expandable as a subpanel. Secondly, it may not meet code requirements in certain localities. If there's uncertainty regarding local code requirements for subpanels, it's best to install one as a precaution. If you are confident that a subpanel isn't required, a junction box is an appropriate and economical option. Now let's delve into the installation procedure using the junction box method. Firstly, run the conduit from the house to the designated location of the junction box inside the garage. Secondly, carefully pull the necessary wires, typically black, white, red, and ground wires, through the conduit and into the junction box. Thirdly, at the main electrical panel in the house, connect the 20 amp circuit breaker to each of the 2 circuits intended for the garage. Fourthly, within the junction box, connect the black wire from each circuit to the corresponding black wire of the supply cable and the white wire from each circuit to the corresponding white wire of the supply cable. These connections should be made with appropriate wire connectors, such as wire nuts, ensuring a secure and insulated connection. Fifthly, connect the red wire from each circuit to a pigtail red wire that will be used for the outlets. A pigtail is a short length of wire used to create multiple connections from a single wire. Sixthly, connect the red wire from each circuit to a pigtail red wire that will be used for the lighting. Seventhly, secure the ground wire coming from the conduit to the ground bar inside the junction box. This ensures a proper grounding path for safety. Eighthly, proceed with installing electrical outlets and light fixtures according to your desired layout within the garage. It's crucial to adhere to the National Electrical Code, or NEC, guidelines throughout the entire process. Given the location is Windsor, Colorado, and the NEC edition is 2017, consulting the 2017 NEC is essential. Article 225 covers outside branch circuits and feeders, and Article 250 covers grounding and bonding. Article 314 covers junction boxes. These articles provide detailed requirements for proper installation techniques, wiring methods, and safety measures. Remember that local amendments to the NEC may exist, so consulting with the local authority having jurisdiction, OJ, is advisable to ensure compliance with all applicable regulations. When selecting conductors, ensure they are appropriately sized for the 20 amp circuits. Typically, for general purpose circuits rated 20 amps, using 12 American wire gauge, or OLG, copper conductors is appropriate. However, it's crucial to consider the ampacity of the conductors based on their insulation type and installation conditions, as specified in NEC Table 310.15. Also, take into account voltage drop, especially if the distance between the main panel and the garage is significant. The NEC recommends limiting voltage drop to no more than 3% for branch circuits and 5% for feeders. If voltage drop exceeds these limits, consider using larger conductors to minimize losses and maintain proper voltage levels at the garage. Proper grounding and bonding are essential for electrical safety. Ensure that all metallic components, such as junction boxes, conduit, and equipment enclosures, are properly grounded and bonded together. This helps to create a low impedance path for fault currents, minimizing the risk of electrical shock and equipment damage. The grounding electrode system at the garage should comply with NEC Article 250. Typically, this involves connecting a grounding electrode conductor from the garage grounding system to a grounding electrode, such as a ground rod or a metallic water pipe. When making wire connections within the junction box, use appropriately sized and listed wire connectors suitable for the conductor sizes being used. Wire connectors, such as wire nuts or terminal blocks, should be installed tightly and securely to ensure reliable electrical connections. Avoid overstripping the insulation from the conductors, as this can expose bare wire and increase the risk of short circuits. Consider the environmental conditions within the garage when selecting electrical equipment and materials. If the garage is damp or exposed to moisture, use weather-resistant or waterproof electrical boxes, fittings, and wiring. Additionally, ground fault circuit interrupter, or GFCI, protection may be required for receptacles located in damp or wet locations, such as those near sinks or work areas. Before energizing the circuits, carefully inspect all wiring connections, terminations, and equipment installations to ensure they are properly made and comply with all applicable codes and standards. Use a multimeter to verify the voltage, continuity, and polarity of the circuits. Perform insulation resistance testing to check for any insulation faults or leakage currents. Once you're confident that everything is installed correctly and safely, you can energize the circuits and test the operation of the outlets and lighting fixtures. Remember that working with electricity can be dangerous, and it's essential to take all necessary safety precautions to protect yourself from electrical shock and other hazards. Always energize circuits before working on them, and use appropriate personal protective equipment, or PPE, such as insulated gloves and safety glasses. If you are not comfortable performing electrical work yourself, it's best to hire a qualified electrician to do the job. When deciding between a subpanel and a junction box, consider future needs. If there's a possibility of adding more circuits in the future, a subpanel offers greater flexibility. It allows for easy expansion without the need to replace the entire wiring system. On the other hand, if the electrical needs are minimal and unlikely to change, a junction box may be sufficient. Local codes and regulations play a significant role in determining the appropriate wiring method. Some jurisdictions may require a subpanel for all detached garages, regardless of the number of circuits. It's essential to consult with the local building department or electrical inspector to ensure compliance with all applicable codes. The cost of materials and labor should also be considered. Subpanels typically cost more than junction boxes, and installation may require more time and effort. However, the added benefits of a subpanel, such as increased capacity and flexibility, may outweigh the additional cost in the long run. Proper labeling is crucial for identifying circuits and components within the electrical system. Label each circuit breaker in the main panel and the subpanel, if installed, with a clear description of the loads they serve, such as garage outlets or garage lights. Additionally, label the junction box with a warning sign indicating the presence of electrical connections. Regular maintenance is essential for ensuring the continued safe and reliable operation of the electrical system. Periodically inspect wiring, connections, and equipment for signs of damage or wear. Tighten any loose connections and replace any damaged components promptly. Test GFCI receptacles regularly to ensure they are functioning properly. If you encounter any problems or have concerns about the electrical system, don't hesitate to consult with a qualified electrician. They can diagnose and repair electrical issues safely and effectively, ensuring the electrical system operates properly. Remember, electrical work should be performed by qualified individuals who are knowledgeable about electrical codes, standards, and safety procedures. Attempting to perform electrical work without proper training and experience can be dangerous and may result in serious injury or property damage. When planning the electrical layout for the detached garage, consider the placement of outlets and lighting fixtures to maximize convenience and functionality. Install outlets at convenient locations for powering tools, equipment, and other devices. Provide adequate lighting for illuminating work areas and pathways. Consider installing motion sensor lights for added security and energy efficiency. Proper planning and preparation are essential for successful electrical installation. Before starting any work, create a detailed electrical plan outlining the location of outlets, lighting fixtures, and other electrical equipment. Obtain all necessary permits and approvals from the local building department. Gather all the required materials, tools, and equipment before beginning the installation. In summary, the decision between using a subpanel and a junction box for powering a detached garage depends on factors such as local code requirements, future electrical needs, and budget constraints. While a subpanel offers greater flexibility and capacity, a junction box may be a more cost-effective option for simple installations. Regardless of the chosen method, it's crucial to follow all applicable codes, standards, and safety procedures to ensure a safe and reliable electrical system. Remember to consult with qualified professionals when in doubt, and prioritize safety above all else.